The opening word of this week's Torah portion, and subsequently its name, is Vayakhel. Vayakhel Moshe et kol adatz b'nei Yisrael. Moses gathered the entire community of the Israelites. And that word, Vayakhel, shares its root with the word many of us know well, kehilah, community. To be a Jewish community is quite literally to gather. But the Torah is careful about how that gathering happens. Rashi, a French medieval commentator, notices something subtle in the Hebrew grammar. The verb, we're going to get a little nerdy for a second, so buckle up. The verb vayakhel is in the he feel form, the causative voice. Moses does not physically gather the people with his hands. Rather, through his leadership and words, he inspires them to gather with intention and purpose. And ultimately, from that gathering, they create the Mishkan. They celebrate its completion, that sacred dwelling place where the people connect with God. And that grammatical distinction matters, because just one chapter earlier, in last week's Torah portion, Ki Tisa, we see something very different. Vayar ha'am ki boshesh Moshe laredet min hahar, vayikahel ha'am al Aharon. When the people saw that Moses delayed in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron. The same root appears, kuf he lamed, to gather. But this time, the verb is vayikahel, a passive construction. The people gather themselves swept up by fear and frustration as if they almost couldn't help it. In one moment, the Israelites gather to build the Mishkan, a sacred space for God's presence. In the other, to build the golden calf, an act born out of anxiety and uncertainty. The action is the same. The intention and the outcome is completely different. One gathering creates holiness, the other creates chaos. We see this dynamic in our own lives all the time. Think about it. Think about the difference between pouring water into a bowl and letting a sink overflow. In both cases, water gathers. But when we have intention, we channel it somewhere useful. Without intention, it spills everywhere and makes a mess. The Torah reminds us that gathering is itself neutral. What matters is why we gather and what we build together when we do. And that question feels particularly urgent in this moment when we feel a mix of anxiety, anger, and uncertainty. Moments like these, times like these, naturally cause us to gather. We call each other, we check in with friends, we come to synagogue because the thought of being alone feels unbearable. But the Torah reminds us that not every gathering leads to the same place. When fear is the only thing pulling us together, we risk becoming like the Israelites in the golden calf story, a community driven by panic, amplifying each other's anger and anxiety. But this week's Torah portion, Vayakhel, offers another possibility. Moses gathers the people not because they are afraid, but because they are inspired. He gathers them to build something sacred. And the Mishkan is not just an architectural project. It's a communal act of hope. The people bring their gifts, gold and fabric, skill and artistry, generosity and time. And together they transform the wilderness into a place where the divine presence can dwell. The truth is that the Jewish story has never been defined by those who threatened us. It has been defined by what we built in response. Communities, learning, sacred spaces where dignity and compassion thrive. And yet, the Torah reminds us that not every gathering leads somewhere holy. Communities can gather and spiral deeper into fear. Communities can gather and amplify anger. Communities can gather and lose sight of who they are meant to be. Or we can gather the way Moses gathered the Israelites, with purpose, vision, and hope. The Israelites stood in the wilderness with every reason to panic, and yet Moses brought them together not to rage or despair, but to build. To build a Mishkan, to build beauty, to build connection, to build a space where God could dwell amongst the people. And perhaps that is the question this Parsha asks of us right now. When we gather as Jews in this moment of fear and uncertainty, what are we building? Are we building walls of anger, or are we building something sacred together? May we choose the kind of gathering that strengthens our community, deepens our values, reminds us who we are meant to be and the world that we want to create. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Be strong, and may we strengthen one another. Shabbat shalom.